have some paper towel, fill up your water bottles with water, paper towels, water, baby wipes are nice. And then if you happen to have like a tray or dish, or even it's funny, I found this at the office, like I use stuff like this if it's because, and I fill it with water because stencils can go like when they're dirty and you fill it with water, you can just stick them in here. Well, this one doesn't go all the way, but like a nice 6x6 fits into this. I've used all sorts of things, but actually today I turned, you can't see it because I put it underneath my desk and I just hope I don't stick my feet into it. But I took the top of a Tupperware storage container, turned it over. It made a nice kind of giant dish and I filled it with water, and that's where I'm going to throw my stencils. So basically what I'm saying, stencils are pretty indestructible, but when we're going to be working with some pastes, you want to get that stuff off and you want to get some water on it as soon as possible. The thing, I don't know if you guys have noticed it, but journaling is pretty hot. I mean, even my 19-year-old daughter is like, Mom, have you ever heard of bullet journaling? And I'm like, yeah, maybe a little. Like she thinks it's all new. And I told her, go on your Instagram feed and just do #bullet journaling and you will find a million things. And just like we've seen this real pop of crafting and art, journaling is the same way. And I don't think it's because people have found themselves with a lot of time. Obviously they have, but they've also found themselves with a lot of isolation and loneliness and a disruption in their routines. And I think that this is one of the ways that people process what's going on right now is through their art. And I mean, I had a store for 8 years. This is how I started my business. I was teaching crafts of all sorts all over Westchester County. And I just I couldn't get to places fast enough. I mean, I'd have a 9 o'clock adult ed class, and I'd have a 1 o'clock adult ed class somewhere else, and then an after school class, and then maybe a senior citizen class at the senior center, and then another adult ed. I was all over the place. And I thought, let me just open a store where people can come. And that's what I did. I ended up with a store that did about 30 classes a month. And a lot of our money came from classes and showing people what to do. And while I was doing all of that, I realized there were no good stencils. And really, I just designed some for my store because I figured I must be the only person with this problem. Otherwise, there would be more nicer stencils out there. And little by little, as you know, our crafters do travel, or at least they used to. And pre-internet time, when people actually went from store to store and they didn't see stuff online, my little stencils would travel around the country and then around the world, and that's how they ended up in other people's stores. So that's the story of my stencils. And the reason I know that women, because we all know about probably 90% of our end users are probably women, they see their art as a form of expression, and getting their feelings out, getting their viewpoints out. Processing is a big thing. The other thing that I've always noticed is that my customers tended to be teachers, strange time to be a teacher, social workers, and nurses. And these are all very hands-on types of people who like to help, who are often pouring out themselves into other people, but somewhere we all have to be recharged. So these people tend to be not selfish people, as I might call them, but they do need to kind of self-care. And that's kind of what all of this is. And that's what's turning into dollars for us right now, which I think is a wonderful thing. But I'm also a big believer in making hay while the sun shines. So to that end, I'm here to help you sell more stuff, not just stencils. I mean, because I realize if the stores are doing well selling other stuff, they're going to buy more of my stuff. So I want you to kind of be thinking about what you've been seeing as far as what's selling, any trends, because I'm always curious about that. I don't think anything is an outlier. I think there's always a reason that something has a bump. And so one of the things that I've always noticed is that pretty sells. And that was the impetus for me starting my stencil business in 1997, is that the stuff out there was ugly. So I needed pretty stuff. Turn inventory, turn it as fast as you can, buy as good a stuff as you can figure out. And then if it doesn't sell, get rid of it. One of the things that I always had in my store, and I'm pretty agnostic about, which brand, is a color wheel. So what I would say to you first and foremost is, and maybe I'll put it here too, whatever color wheel is in stock, it doesn't matter which brand, I'm sorry to tell you, but whichever one is in stock, that's what you should be selling. Because what a color wheel does, maybe what I'll do is I'll move this. A color wheel helps people figure out what goes with what. Because in order for things to be pretty, and happens. Doo-doo happens when people mix things on the opposites of the color wheel. So here we go. Here's blue and here's orange. Let me move this up a little. There we go. Blue and orange. Notice that they're across from each other. That means they're contrasting colors. It's really fun. Like I could show you a picture outside where the blue sky and the orange trees look gorgeous. But when you start mixing it together and it's wet, it's just gross. And it's a way to tone down a project, which is very nice, very artsy, but not maybe what you're looking for. Same goes with green. There we go, green and red. Now, what are you thinking, green and red? Oh, those are Christmas colors. So yeah, they vibrate against each other. Sometimes it looks good, and sometimes it looks like somebody threw up on a Christmas tree. So you have to be really careful. And the other contrasting colors are yellow and purple, or yellow and violet. Be super careful. And the reason I'm showing you this is because you'll see what we're going to be playing with today. I always stay within 3 or 4 steps on the color wheel. Like here's, like you see, oh, here we go. Yellow into a yellow green, into a green, into a blue green. Like I'm going to stay in this quadrant, or maybe I'm going to stay in this quadrant. And then if I'm doing something, harvesty, I'm going to stay up around here. And this is how you ensure that it looks pretty. So when your store owners are doing a demo, they should use a color wheel to show their customers how to make something pretty, because pretty equals successful, and successful equals a happy customer. And guess what happy customers do? They buy more stuff. So your job is to educate our store owners, who probably have an innate sense of maybe what works and what doesn't work. But sometimes if you help verbalize what works, they go, oh, and then it becomes something they do all the time. So helping your customers, our end users, to make pretty projects that they feel proud of, that they have a sense of accomplishment, that they feel successful, that just breeds more success. It also breeds loyalty to that particular retailer. So that's my little spiel about color, and you'll see in the demo why it works. Versatility is something really important too. Showing somebody how to use one tool many different ways. They love that. Showing them how to use the stuff that's already in their stash. There's always that joke about, no, it's not so much a joke. A lot of my customers would leave their goodies in the trunks of their cars until their husbands left for work, and then they get it out of the trunks of their cars and they put it into their craft room, or they take all the stickers off. I think people do this with clothes too. I'm not naming any names out there. So they have a lot of stuff. There's a little bit of guilt, like kind of a happy guilt, but still there's some guilt. But the way you can assuage that guilt is to help them use their stuff. And think about it too. Not only do they use up their stuff and then they feel better about buying more, you also show them how to use other stuff, and then they like the idea of buying more things to use with the stuff they've been stockpiling. So food for thought there. Oh, when you're demoing, don't be stingy. I know there's a lot of us, like I was raised by people who were born in the Depression era. I mean, I'll scrape the peanut butter jar dry. This is not exactly what you want to show them to do. Sometimes using the last bits of something, you end up with a gross project. So I'll show you a little bit about that, but the more luscious and luxurious and flowing with, abundance that you can show, the more they're going to enjoy it. They like abundance. Oh, always use good paper. I know it seems obvious, but when you pull out a stack of printer paper to do something with a really wet medium, it just ripples and it tears and it doesn't really hang on to the color the way the color should. And then it looks like crap. So, and then people are not successful. That's why I just say, you know what, splurge on the good paper. Get the stuff that's meant for watercolor, that's meant for water medium, that's meant for mixed media. Even if it's a little pad, like I love the Strathmore artist tiles. I don't know if you guys carry it. They're like little 6x6. Let's see here. Oh, there we go. I mean, I sell some fun paper too, and I'll show you. But like I said, I believe in everybody making some money. And we all work together and we all sell. I mean, I can't make everything, you know, and there's stuff that I really like. So sell, 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 and then sell some more. Yeah, those are my little tidbits. I'll talk quickly. I don't remember if all of you have heard that Ken Oliver's his contract with Color Burst ended, and we decided we had a lot of fun using them with our stencils. So we said, hey, come join us and we'll do something a little bit different. We call them Color Sparks. They are essentially the same watercolor powders as Color Burst. So if you're already a convert and you already love Color Burst, this is basically the same thing. The only difference is that it's in a new bottle. We really, really like this bottle. It's for a woman, you know, with, you know, kind of dainty hands. I don't have a lot of strength in my hands, so this is a lot easier to hold, a lot easier to tap. And because it has a screw on top, it also keeps moisture out. So that's kind of what we liked about it. Oh, and the other neat thing about it is that these not only hang, let's see if I can. So here is the colors. It comes in threes, in sets of three. We figured we would do this. I'm trying to work backwards, sorry. We figured we'd do it in sets of threes so you didn't have to have open stock. And look, as a store owner, there's something that I loved about open stock and there's a lot that I hated about it. You always ended up with these crazy colors that, you know, just didn't have as much love and so many SKUs. So we put it into this clamshell and then you can see it hangs. It has a hang hole right here. See the hang hole? And then the other neat thing is that it's made so it stands. So let's see if I can. Here, it's standing on my table now. I know you can't see it quite that, but trust me, on a shelf, because I didn't have a whole lot of wall space. I did have a lot of shelf space. So it'll stand right on the shelf, doot, 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 just like that, like little soldiers. So it comes in 6 different packs. So there's this pretty one with the blues and the greens, oranges and yellow, deeper reds and sepia. Here's some purples and reds. We tried not to, there's no duplication. We tried to make them all kind of have a reason for being. These are kind of like harvest tones with a green and some orange and yellow. And then these deep, rich pearl gem colors with the green, turquoise, and a wisteria. By the way, our hashtag, or at TCW Stencils, is where you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, get lots of good ideas on. Our Instagram feed is pretty awesome, TCW Stencils. You can find a lot of cool stuff. And then the hashtag Color Sparks, you'll see some great ideas there. So that is the story of Color Sparks, and they are all available now. Yay. And actually, we have not, everything's available now. We have not had any glitches in our chain supply. And yeah, we've just been going strong. We figured out how to get everybody to work at different times, entering different doors, using different bathrooms. And we were right in New York, which was kind of the epicenter and continues to be a little bit of an epicenter of virus. We wipe everything down. We keep the doors open when we can. And yeah, and well, we're all women. So we just kind of, where there's a will, there's a way. And there was a way, so we willed it to happen. So we work weekends, we work nights. Margie, our oldest employee, she's 75. She gets in at like 7 in the morning on Saturdays and Sundays before she goes to church. And she comes in and she packages stencils. And then if she doesn't finish something after she cleans up, I think somehow I think she was photographing church services, but now she comes back and she finishes up because she doesn't like to leave something undone. So we are real can-do people. And we're going to make sure that you guys have plenty of stuff to sell for the holiday season. So onward we go. Let me get all my goodies. So I'm opening up the mixed media board. And in it is, this one contains one 12 by 12 mixed media board, which is kind of nice. It's hard. It's got a watercolor surface, and it takes a lot of water. It takes a real beating. I love it. We're going to be playing right now with the stencil. Let's see, can you see that with the pumpkin? Or you can pull out the giant sunflower. And this giant sunflower just came back in stock. We had discontinued it because it just wasn't getting enough love. And then all of a sudden, like, sunflowers became really hot. So this one is TCW 575. It might have been discontinued, but if you can resurrect it, I think you might be happy. Sunflowers are still selling. And then we will eventually be using Thankful, Grateful, and Blessed. You can see it. And I'll kind of give you a little preview on what we're aiming for. This is, I wish I could make this a little bit higher. Sorry if it's kind of low. Oh, that's better then. Okay, so we're going to either be making this, or that was with the sunflower, and this is with the harvest. So this is our goal for this particular project. We're going to do it in a couple of steps so everything gets to dry. People have a hard time putting something like a sample together with a product if it's in the reverse. So what I always recommend is, if you look in the bottom corner of my stencils, let's see if I can do it. If I tilt it, oh, you kind of see the writing? Barely. It always has our style number. Sort of, you see that little, see, it says TCW 819. You can barely see that. Anyway, that's how you know the stencil is facing forward. And so I always say, do it in the same direction, if you're a store owner, the same way that the customer is going to see it on the shelf. And that way they'll understand, oh, this goes with this. Not everybody has that ability to kind of flip it around in their heads. I know it seems obvious, but it's not. I mean, you have to kind of have like an architectural brain to flip around. So anyway, that goes for everything. Whenever you're making a sample for a store, don't be too cute with like making it not look like the original rubber stamp or the original paper or stencil. The customer really needs to be able to make that one-to-one connection. Oh, she used this to make this. And if they can't connect it, sometimes they don't buy it because they don't realize that that's what you used. You kind of have to you have like that much time to convince a customer to buy something. All right, that's my spiel on that. So now comes the fun part. I have all color sparks in a little basket, and I'm going to pull out a few things. And I learned, first of all, when you're doing some wordage over something, it does need to be fairly light. If you go too heavy, you're fighting with the words. That's one. And two, I'll show you, if you're too monochromatic, I find it's not as pretty. So this one uses a little bit of green. This one did not. So take a look again. I feel like this one's a little bit boring, and this one has a little pop of green. So, and then this one I feel like got too dark. So I do a lot of renditions of a project before I'm ready to teach it or show it. And I like to save the ones that come out badly, so that number one, I understand why something is more visually pleasing, and then I also understand and can explain to my students, do this, not this, if you want this effect. Again, it's pushing our end user to success. Sometimes they don't know what makes a successful project, but you do. So you guide them so they walk away going, oh, looks professional. So anyway, we're going to pull out a couple of colors. Chartreuse is one of the ones that I used for a little bit of the tops of the stem. I used a little bit of orange, not a lot. Gamboge. A little bit of yellow ochre on the corn, and marigold. Okay. So for this particular project, less is more. And better. Yay. Okay. I feel a little better now that you can actually see a little action going on. All right. So I've got my colors all lined up. I've got my spray bottle. It's filled with water. And I like to start sometimes with my lightest colors. I'm going to start with gamboge. And so I'm twisting off the cap, putting the cap down, and then there's a little nozzle here. You see the nozzle. And some colors are heavier in weight and some are lighter, and you'll see they flow a little bit differently. But anyway, I'm going to do the corn first, and I'm turning it upside down, gently squeezing, and I'm tapping. And I'm going up to the little tassels of the corn. And then I'm going to put a little bit also, squeeze a little around this little guy right here. Give it a little blow. And then I am covering it. The one thing powder does not like is moisture. I'm going to put a little yellow ochre. Just give it a little bit here and there. I'm going to put the chartreuse. I'm just going to give it a little bit of a hint down here at the stalk. I know you can barely see the color, barely. You see, it almost looks like I'm not doing anything. And put a little bit up here.
It does look like you're not hardly putting anything. What would you say? How much do you actually put on there?
It's like a light salting.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah. And you know what it's going to be? You're going to here, this is, I'm doing marigold right now, and it's a little bit darker. I think I have got everything. Right here is a little part of the pumpkin as well. And you know what? I think I'm gonna hold off on the actual orange because that's gonna be dark. All right, here's the fun part with the water. So there's I know that it looks like there's barely nothing on there. Here's my water. You have to prime the sprayer. And so I actually, you can spray it into your water source and give it a couple of shoop, 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 and then you go. Now here's the thing, less is more. So I'm gonna do one spray. Let's see, do I want a little bit more? Okay, that's it. It's probably a little too much for this particular project. Okay, it's super light, which is perfect for what we're going to do. So you can see how it just has a really nice hint of a story. Now, if I were going to like, then I would and the sunflower. You know, this is definitely a little more powders. You know, I really was a much more generous in the powder area. You can kind of see I've got the gamboge on the edges. I've got a little bit of the marigold over here. In the middle, I actually tapped a little bit of the sepia, just a little bit. And then I also did, I think this is the orange around here. So, and I also gave it a slightly heavier spritz, but there is that fine line between too heavy and it just starts running together like you put too much water on your watercolors, and just right. So anyway, we're going to let this guy dry, or whichever one that you did, we're going to let that dry. So just put that somewhere. And the next thing I want you to do is pull out the little Christmas stuff that I sent you. Hang on. So what I sent everybody were 3 stencils. Aren't these fun? Merry Christmas, Joy, and then these fun snowflakes. These are great, great stencils. And then also pull out the watercolor paper. And of course, any watercolor paper is fine. It's fun to have ours, but you know, I don't judge. And I also gave you a couple of boards to play with. So, you know, I'm not grading here. So you decide to use one, you want to use one of the boards. I mean, I'll never know. I'm not coming and checking your work. So what we're going to do is we're going to make cards, or not. You can make boards if you want. But just to give you an idea of some of the cool things that you can play with. This was on a bigger piece. And I'm going to show you how to make a background, and then we're going to use some modeling paste. So again, piece of watercolor paper. And for this, I actually really like teal when I'm playing with Christmas stuff sometimes. So I'm going to do a little bit of teal, and I think I used chartreuse. So teal and chartreuse, just to give it, I don't know, a little bit of a shimmer. So again, I'm unscrewing it and tap, tap, tap. And I think what I'm also going to do is put a little bit over here on the side so you can kind of just see what the powders do on their own. Because this is a great way to make background papers if you're doing mixed media. And I'm going to just put a little, tiny little, just breathing on it almost. You can barely see it. And then I'm going to give it a good, yeah. Okay, that was chartreuse and teal. You know what? I think I'm even maybe going to play with cerulean blue a little bit and just give it a couple little dots of that. So a little there, a little there, there. And then I'll also put some on the side here. And again, I'm going to prime my water. So I'm giving it 2 spritzes. And then I'm going straight into spritzing it here. Those were maybe, what, 2 spritzes, 3? Isn't that pretty? Just all those colors there. Now I could leave this over here. I'm actually going to put my stencil to the right and just sit on that for 1 second. But let me show you something cool. I also gave you guys where we've got some new brushes. I sent you one. And I'm gonna just put a little water on the brush. And now just like, you can even play a little bit. And you could spray a little extra. I'm actually gonna cut this away when it dries, but just adding little bits of water onto this. It's watercolor paper, so that's fine. Here's another little trick. I know it's the oldest trick in the book, but I've got some salt. I can even throw some salt onto my project, and it'll cause it to dry a little bit differently. The salt quickly absorbs the water, and it leaves pigment in certain spaces, and it also leaves a nice little a texture. And that's just kosher salt, any kind of salt. Chunkier salt is kind of fun. You guys might, I don't know if you even sell salt, maybe. Sometimes you can buy it in a jar for artists. Very fun. Let me just clean up my area a little bit. I'm going to let this dry. Ooh, I really like, let me pull up a little closer. Look at all the depth of the snowflakes. It's kind of fun. Normally I let this just dry on its own, helping it a little bit. So I'm wiping up my surface, and when I'm done, I end up with all of these like really pretty paper towels. So I had a whole bunch of these paper towels. Let me move this aside. And I thought, what if I take my super thick gel? Now, these fell into my water bucket just a few moments ago, but they really do. It does dry shiny. It does dry dimensional. Can I see it? Oh, I'm not making you dizzy. Look at the richness of color. These are Selecticize Bounty kitchen towels, paper towels. And what I used was our super thick. There it is. This is the super thick gel. And it kind of has the consistency of something a little bit thicker than, yeah, like really thick sour cream. Super fat sour cream. That's what it has. And it, literally, I just took a whole bunch of these paper towels after they were dry and mounted them on here. And then imagine from here, you could then start layering if you're, really into mixed media. And to do this, by the way, I used our nice boards. So those boards, here they are. They come in a pack of 3. Let's see. I think Virginia sent me some. Yeah. Here's the mixed media board in 6x6, and it comes 3 to a pack, and it retails for $7. So it's a nice, easy, 3 in a pack. Have a little fun. The 12x12s just come single pack, FYI. So we've got all these, and while the stuff is drying, I just wanted to show you some cool stuff that I've done. Hang on, let me get my stash. So you saw how we did journaling. So this is actually a 12x12 stencil. Same technique where we, tapped the powder and then sprayed through it. And then when the stencil is all wet, I did a reverse, like kind of, it's called monoprinting, which is basically what gel printing is. So this is this monoprinted. So let me give you a little preview of what that looks like, because I saved. I've got my board right here, and then I have my project right here that we just played with. I'm actually going to give it another little spritz, and I'm going to lay it right on the table, and I'm going to take my board, pick a pretty spot, and just flatten it with my fingers, and then peel it back. Ooh, it's kind of pretty. It gives like a very nice shadow. This, remember, we did it kind of light. So from here, I could use this as a base, do, harvest greetings, have a bountiful season, any of these beautiful things with a piece of lace or a piece of ribbon or some buttons, and I can just start layering it. So that's called a monoprint, which people have been doing a lot with gel printing. And here we go. So that was how I did this cool thing. Another thing, have you guys been noticing that your pens have been selling like crazy? So I got some zebra pens from my friend at Zebra, and I did this with just the thing about just the color. I did the same thing with a giant stencil, put it on a board, spritz, tap the color, spritzed, let it dry, and then let me do a close-up. This is all done with gel pen. Can you see that? See how, and it's the metallic gel pen. So it's kind of like Zentangling. That was a lot of. These I did also with a 12x12 with the the powders, but then I went over it. You see how I doodled? I kind of highlighted certain areas by doodling with again, a gel pen. Here I just literally went around and outlined using a gel pen. Again, anything with sunflowers, I'm noticing, is selling like crazy. Another fun thing to do with the super thick, once the stencil dries and you don't clean it and it still has ink on it, I then take so it's now you've got like a dry inked stencil, and then take the super thick and scrape the super thick through the stencil onto the board. And what happens is, because the super thick has a water base to it, it reactivates the powder. And then you end up with this kind of glass-like look. It almost looks like ultra thick embossing enamel. So for those of you who are big rubber stampers, it has a very similar effect. Speaking of ultra thick embossing enamel, which I do love, you could use our tacky when dry. See, did I bring some of that here? No, I don't know that I have tacky when dry here, but that has been a crazy good seller for us. You could do the same thing with tacky when dry, and then it dries and it's tacky, and then you put clear embossing powder or gold embossing powder over it, and then you emboss it, and that's a lot of fun too. Actually, and I think, is this one? You know, sometimes I forget which I did well with. I think this might be ultra thick embossing enamel. What I did here was I colored, I put the color through the stencil, let it completely dry. Then on top of it, oh, I know, I thought I was putting the super thick. No, because something didn't have a label. This was actually the tacky when dry. And you can see it stuck to something because it was so tacky. And it was somewhere it got stuck. And I'm like, oh, well, if it's tacky now, I think I'm going to throw clear embossing powder onto it. So this is a really nice layered effect with the clear embossing enamel. And then if you want to take it to the next spot, I was thinking then I would watercolor the white areas and use this as a resist, because it will resist whatever colors. So that was kind of fun. And this is our sunflower. Let me see, here we go. Everyone loves this one. This was just done with a brush, you know, a flat brush, and all different inks, like little ink pads. Easy peasy, very sweet. Those are a bunch of things that we played with. And of course, you can always make just some watercolor papers to use as backgrounds, tear them up. All right, enough of show and tell. Let's move on to part 2. Now we're going to, hopefully your project is dry.
Janie, we have a real quick question.
Yeah.
Is this, can you use this on fabric, or will it wash out of fabric?
It will wash out. It is water-based. Yep. But if you're doing like a wall hanging, you know, you
could put it on.
You could, yeah. Okay. You could use it as a dye. Okay, I'm making some space here. Why is it that no matter what size table you have, it's never big enough? You ever find that? We all end up working like in a 2-inch area. Okay, so I'm going to take the project that we just did, and I'm going to use our Thankful, Grateful, Blessed, which I love. We also have another one that says something about love. Let me see where that one is. Thankful, Grateful, Blessed. I don't know. Oh, Love Grows Here. This is another cool one. Love Grows Here. You kind of see it go, you can't quite see it. Here we go. Love Grows Here. So you could do either. They're a lot of fun. I'm going to do the Thankful, Grateful. And we're going to use, well, I'm going to use the copper. You do not have to use the copper if you don't want to. I also gave everybody, I think, sterling silver. And just as a reminder, we have 8 different metallics. So, you know, we've got 3 different silvers, 3 different golds, a copper, and a pearl white. And they're really, really delicious. And they all blend together, which is one of my favorite things to do. You can kind of make it ombre. So the nice thing about this is that all our stencils are all centered. So I'm going to, just to be on the safe side, I'm going to tape this down. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Just taping it to the table. Okay, we'll see. We'll see if that holds. I didn't quite, the table's a little bit wet. And I also, we found everyone needed an offset palette knife. So we now sell these plastic offset palette knives. I like the shape of it. It's nice in my hand. And as I tell people, of course, you could use an old credit card or an old room key, but the truth is, store owners don't sell old credit cards or old room keys. So once again, you want to sell what you have. So if you can sell them a $4 palette knife, you should sell them a $4 palette knife because that's what they really want. They don't want to use some ratty room key. And if they do, that's fine. The option to help pay their bills because we're not living on love. So here's all of my, it's not a lot. Like I said, don't be stingy. So don't do what I'm about to do, but you always take the modeling paste from the bottom. You want to be mostly sitting on the bottom. You see how it's like that? Because you're going to be spreading it. Sorry. And I go kind of piece by piece. I'm not going to go all over the place. And the thing you do not want to do is you don't want to get any paste underneath the stencil. So you're pretty much working from the top and spreading carefully. Think of this like a cake, if anybody's ever frosted a cake and you don't want to pull up crumbs from the cake. You want the cake layer to stay, nice and untouched. You're just kind of laying the frosting down on it. And by the way, this has the consistency of really nice buttercream frosting. I'm just saying, not that it's all about food, but it is. So I'm going to start, I think, in the middle. That way I won't accidentally hit stuff with my hands on the sides here. So I'm going to start with Grateful. I'm going to put some of it down kind of like off, right on the solid stencil area. And then from there, I'm going to, with the side of my palette knife, I'm just going to bring it down. And you always want to kind of go in the direction, so like of the letter. So here's a little U. Do you see this little U part? So I want to make sure that I'm brushing it down, not brushing it up where I can accidentally catch it and lift it up. So I'm just bringing it down. And the other thing you'll notice I'm not going across and then boop, I'm not lifting my palette knife up really fast. This is, sorry. You're not doing like an orchestra here, so you're just pressing it down and gliding off. Nothing too acrobatic. Okay, I got that little area. I've got a little part right here and a little part of the L right here. I want to make sure I get that. So I smushed it off my palette knife and I'm just scraping it across. Now I'm going to pick up a little bit more. This is the part where you're not being stingy. Picking up a little more. I'm going to do the Thanksgiving, but also see how this part could pop up right here between the H and the A. So I'm going to make sure I'm bringing it down. So here I go, down, down, down. And we used to always tell our students, less is not more. I mean, yeah, less is more. That was it. Because, I believe the kindergarten creed is more. So we would always say, no, less is more. But in this situation, more is better. The more you put on and cover and don't get stingy, the better it covers. So we've got that. Now I'm going to do my blessed area. Just swiping it right down. The E, same thing. You see, it almost came up on me there, but I caught it. Put a little bit right here and then scraping it down like I'm cleaning the windows. Like I'm using a squeegee, right? Now for these guys, they are open right here, so you kind of want to be nice to them and just scrape it across. Good. Put a little bit more. Again, I'm not trying to make do with a little bit. I'm really going back, picking up more. This is not the peanut butter jar. Make sure all of your white areas are covered. Now, I did tape it down. Let's see if I can. Oh, it was so good. I taped it down. But I'm actually going to rotate it because I find that's a little bit easier sometimes. I want to make sure you can see. Okay, smush and smear. Smush and smear. Like a bagel. And I'm going to give it one more rotation. This is not something I would start and come back to because the stuff dries. And like putty or cement, this will dry on your stencil. And so what we do is we immediately put this stencil into water. Oh, I see I missed a spot right there. And clean the palette knife. Okay, I'm down to the last one. And the nice thing about these little jars, these 2-ounce jars, you can do a couple of projects and then you're done. So it's a good price point, and then people come back and buy more. They get a nice amount done. They don't feel like they overpaid. And then they're happy. Okay, did I miss any spots? Ooh, a little bit right there. Okay, I think I've got it all. Always close your jars because it will for sure dry out. And then I just baby wipe or a wet paper towel, just wipe this off. And then here's the big reveal. For the reveal, I tend to start at a corner and I hold down at the other corner. And I'm just gonna pick it up and roll it back. Okay, and I'm gonna take all this ooey gooey stuff and I'll put it face down into my water and I'll deal with it later. Now, before I forget, here's the ooh ah, hold on. Ah, nice. It has some nice texture to it. It has a nice reflective feel to it. And now you see remember how soft that background was? It's perfect for this. I love it. And then if you want, it could be framed. What I was going to say about cleaning the stencils are sharp, believe it or not, and fingers are soft. When you're cleaning it, you don't want to be rubbing it under the water because I'm telling you, you will cut yourself. So instead, put it in the water. You can use a baby wipe to wipe it, or just go slowly, go very slowly. Get most of it off. It will disintegrate in the water, and then just slowly wash it off. And I'll show you a little trick. Let me put this somewhere to dry. Little trick. Once you take it out of the water, in order to dry it, if you wanted to do something next, I put the stencil down, I roll out the paper towel, and then I roll it back up in the paper towel, and I roll it back, and now your stencil is dry and ready to be used. A wet stencil is bad, so you don't. Now for the last part, we're going to now take the our little snowflakes. This should be dry. Oh, and you see what I just did? I just like ran my hand around it. Before you do that, tap off the excess powder. There is still watercolor powder stuck here. So if you do this, which it didn't happen this time, but it has, where I've done that, and then I have little swirls of where the pigment actually swirled around and I made a pretty design. Not that I wanted to. So let's do our Merry Christmas. You are welcome to do whichever one you would like. I'm going to lay it on top. And this time we're going to use the sterling silver, which is a nice, pretty dark silver. Look at how delicious that is. And I am going to tape this down since my paper has a little bit of a curl to it right now because it's not completely dry, but it will. And again, this is going to be really nice on a card. So you would do this part, then cut it out when it's dry, and then mount it onto an additional card. So again, bottom of the palette knife, and I'm just smooshing and smearing. This is a little smaller, so it's easier. Okay, don't overplay with it. This is just like with a cake. You start to play with it, and you know you're going to mess it up. And again, I just pick it up from the corner and roll it back. And here you have your beautiful little Merry Christmas. And it is so dimensional. Tilt it up so you can see it. And it will dry with all of this wonderful dimension. Do you see that? And with a nice metallic look to it. So from here, I'll cut this, mount it onto a card, and poof, I have a sweet, sweet little Christmas card with a nice saying. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. Oh, I know what we didn't do. We did not get to see everybody's make and takes.
I will show you, but mine's like still wet, so it's all smeared still. So
Okay, that's okay. It's actually the stuff that's like.
I got really excited with that powder and put too much on. Oh, yours looks good, Missy.
The modeling paste is really fun.
Isn't it? It's
Great.
So okay, so I'll give you a little heads up. We've got 8 new colors coming out of modeling paste. It's in production, so I don't even have anything to show you, but lots of fun stuff. We just during this time, we did not stop. We were just going. So that's my dog and pony show. I'm sorry I'm not there with you guys. I did love coming over and like bringing 2 suitcases, you know, like this much for my clothes and the rest for all my art keys, cookie decorating.
Yeah, we always love to have people in. It'll probably be a while before we're able to do it again.
Well, thank you for your patience trying to get everything organized here. I appreciate it. And if you're excited about something, post it on Instagram. Hashtag TCW Stencil Love. It's on the back of all the packaging of the stencils, but feel free to share.
Awesome.
All right, guys. Have a great day.
Thanks, Jamie.
Bye.
Bye-bye.